Now this right here, this is some vegetable beef soup that I canned, and it was on the 4th of February. So this is going to be shelf stable for 2 to 4 years, I believe is what they say. I ate some oxtail soup that I had canned from 2021. Perfect. But what I plan on doing is that gumbo that's left over, I'm going to can it just like I canned this vegetable beef soup. So y'all tune in when I have that next video coming up on how to do some canning. Thank you. So these are the things you're going to need when you want to can. Of course, you're going to want to have whatever you're canning, and right there I have gumbo. And then you're going to want your quart jars, pint jars if you are doing pints. Today I'm doing quarts. You've got your rings for your quart jars, and your seals, your lids, and you've got a funnel that's wide mouth to set into the jar, and you've got your magnet extender here, and what this does is it lifts your lids out of your boiling water when you sterilize them. And you have your can lifter, your jar lifter, and that's what you pull the jars out when you get ready to remove them from your canner after you're finished. And then you want to make sure you have your pot of water for your lids, and your big pot of water to sterilize your jars. And of course, the main thing is your canner. And this is, I believe, an American canner I got off of Amazon, and it's got the weights. This is a 10-pound weight. That's what I'll be using today, is a 10-pound weight. And I'll go over weights with you in just a little bit. Today's the day. Today's canning day. I don't know if you watched my last video, I hope you did, but I made some wonderful gumbo, and I had a lot left over, and I did that on purpose so that I could can what was left. And so today on Sister Cowgirl, I want to show you the canning process. Your ring. Right over here, I've got my lids. Those are boiling. I do like to sterilize those, and I do say that those you do not reuse. So once you put them on your jars and you seal your jars, the jars stay in storage, and then when you open that jar and you start using the contents of that jar, you don't want to reuse that lid. You want to throw that away, okay? But the rings, you could reuse those. So the other things that you're going to need for canning is you're going to need your wide mouth funnel, got the name of it, and then you're going to want to have a chopstick. Why a chopstick, you say? Well, when you ladle, which is another tool, you ladle your soup or whatever it is into the jar, you want to use this chopstick to get any air bubbles out. So you're going to want that. You're going to want this magnetic lid lifter. So all of those lids that are in that hot water that's boiled, you don't want to stick your fingers in there. So you use this magnetic lid lifter to get those out of there. And you're also going to need your jiggler, which comes with your canner. And I'll go in more detail about this jiggler in just a moment. You want vinegar, and you want your jar lifter to help get the jars out of the canner when they're done. And so I do want to show you the canner. It's right over here. I use an American, excuse me, scratch that. I use a Presto canner. There is an American canner you can get, but I prefer the Presto canner. I already have some hot water in there. I did not boil it. I just got it hot, okay? So that when you put those jars in there, it's already hot, and they acclimate to that hot water. This right here is a Presto canner. There's an American canner that you can get as well. Now the Presto canner, cost me about $135. Canners aren't cheap, but they'll last you just about a lifetime, okay? I got it off of Amazon. So what I do is I go ahead and I put about 2 inches of water in there, and I let it get hot. I don't boil it yet, but I do let it get hot so those jars can acclimate to that canner once it gets in there. And also the jars, I do like to boil them, not just for getting them to a warmer temperature in preparation for canning, but to sanitize them. I prefer to sanitize my jars, I do. But anyway, I've got about 2 inches of water in there, and this is the lid to the canner. It's got a little gauge here, and it's got an air spout here. And so when you get your canner, it's going to come with some weights, and actually my canner came with just this weight right here. And this is a 10-pound weight, I believe, and I don't ever use this weight that came with it because I prefer this one, and I had to buy it individually. I had to go back to Amazon and order this. So this is really what's best right here, and I want to break it down. I want to show you what this weight looks like, okay? It comes apart. So let me separate these weights. They kind of like to stick together real good. So it comes like this. It's really 3 pieces, okay? So this is 5 pounds right here. When you add a weight, it becomes 10 pounds. Add another weight, you've got 20. And so what's the difference in the pounds of weight? It just depends on what elevation level you live at. What are you above sea level? Or are you below sea level? So like your higher elevation levels, they use 20-pound. They use both rings on here. So I'm in Texas, and so I only use the one ring on top of the main base. I put the one ring on there to make it 10 pounds. So each ring, the base itself is 5. Now it's 10. So that's what I use is 10 where I live. So you can just Google and ask Google, Atlanta, Georgia, Google, tell me how, what the elevation is of Atlanta, Georgia, and it will tell you whether or not it's above or below sea level, and so you'll know kind of what pound of weight you're going to need, okay? So anyway, the way this works is we're going to get to a point where this is going to boil with the jars inside of it, and air will shoot out of this spout right here, okay? And when it starts releasing air, what's happening is you want all the air that's in your canner to be released. And you have to wait about 10 minutes for that to happen, and then you have to stick your little jiggler on there. And why is it called a jiggler? I'll be able to show you that in just a little bit. For right now though, I want to show you the process of getting your jars canned and ready to put in the canner, okay? Okay, so I got my gumbo all hot and ready to be put in the jars, okay? So let's get that started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over here a little bit closer to the pot so that I can have easier access to these jars. Put my funnel on, and I'm going to start ladling it in, okay? Now you may want to do pint jars, but I feel like the pint jars just don't go very far here, so I'm going to move this a little bit closer. So we're going to get all these jars filled, and you want to make sure that you kind of make sure that there's not so much meat in one jar and not enough in the other. So I'm going to start adding more broth to it. And what you want is you want to give it some head space. And what does that mean? That means that at the top of the jar here, you don't want to go all the way up to the top of the jar. I usually go to this bottom ring here. That's about a 1.5 inch area that you want to keep free without anything in it, okay? So what I do is once I get that jar filled, I'm going to take my chopstick and I'm just going to poke down in there. Any air bubbles, I want it out, okay? So I just get all the air bubbles out. That should be good enough. Now, take your paper towel, dab a little bit of vinegar on there, and go around the rim of that jar, okay? And what that does is that kind of sanitizes that jar even further, and it gets any drippings that you had of the soup, it gets it all off of there so that your lids seal real good and you don't get any contamination, okay? So now I'm going to take this lid lifter, the magnetic lid lifter. I'm going to take that lid, plop it on there. We'll take a ring, put it on here, and you just do finger tight. You don't have to get too tight with it, okay? So there you go. It's on there, and I'm going to go ahead and fill these other jars, and I'll get back with you when we get ready to put them in the canner, okay? My jars are all filled and ready to go in the canner, but I want to show you something first with this, okay? And the reason I'm using this is just so I can pull it out. I don't want to stick my hand in there. That water's hot, okay? So I wanted you to see this. This right here comes with your canner when you get it. And you want to use this on the bottom so that the jars aren't sitting directly on the bottom of the canner. Because if you do that, then you take the risk of the jars getting too hot and cracking. Also, my suggestion is that you buy a second one. You can buy these plates, these trays, separate as well. Get you another one because sometimes you can double stack it. Like if you're doing pint jars, you can double stack. You can have this on the bottom, put you about 6 jars down there. Then you can put this plate on top of those jars and double stack, okay? So, but for right now, I'm not double stacking. I'm just going to have the plate down at the bottom, okay? Okay, so I've got my water in there. Like I said, 2 inches worth of water. And you want it to be hot, okay? But you want to put a splash of vinegar in there. And let me tell you why. Because if you don't do that, your jars are going to get cloudy. They get a residue on it. There's nothing wrong with the residue. It just takes away that shiny glass look of your jars. And it just makes the jars look cloudy. So that vinegar prevents it from doing that, okay? So let's go ahead and put the jars in. And I will tell you, I'm so impressed that I was able to get 6 quart jars out of that gumbo that I made. And so that recipe that I gave y'all last week, what you don't eat, it was just me and Brother Cowboy. If you don't know who Brother Cowboy is, you need to go to his page. He's got his own YouTube page, Brother Cowboy. Check him out. But he's got a huge appetite. I'm surprised I have 6 quarts left over. So anyway, I'm very pleased that I do. So now as you see, I got my jars in here, okay? And so what I'm going to do, I think I might put one here in the middle. Yeah, give these other jars some space. You see how I did that? Put one in the middle and just make sure you got some space between your jars. You don't want them too close together, okay? Now, here we go. We're going to put the lid on. Now, I will tell you, if you get American canner, that has a different way of putting the lid on. It has these little things at the end that these handles that you flip up and you tie down. Well, this is a Presto canner. It's different. It's a twist lock system. And it has on here where it says close, go this way, open, go that way, and it has an arrow there. So you want to see this arrow right here. That's what you want to really try to strive for getting. Now, I have gotten to where sometimes, if I was to get this on for the very first time for this video, I will be very impressed. But you might see me struggling with it just a little because it can kind of get tricky. See, I'm already having issues. Oh, well, looky there. I think that's the shortest time it's ever taken me to put this lid on. So, okay. So my lid is on and it's locked in place. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my heat up to high. Now if you use a gas stove, put it on high, but you're going to have to watch it real close, okay? I'm putting mine all the way up on high, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow this pressure cooker to start the water boiling. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see this real good, but steam's starting to shoot out the little spout. You see that? Puffs of steam are starting to flow on out. If you can see that steam, and it's coming out of there pretty good, that's when you want to set your timer to 10 minutes, okay? So I'm going to set my microwave timer to 10 minutes. And you're going to let that steam shoot out of there for 10 minutes, okay? Okay, time's up. And as you'll see, it's really steaming really good. And I wanted you to see that little pop-up valve there. When that pops up, that tells you that this thing is pressurized. It is time now to put our weight down. Now this can be very tricky. You got to be careful because you've got that hot steam. So I kind of go at it to the side and I pop it on there. So now if you look at this gauge, right now it's at 0. I put the jiggler on. They call it a jiggler because once it gets up to 10 pounds of pressure, you'll see the 10 right there. Right now it's at 0. It's going to get to 10, and when it gets to 10, you're going to want to turn your fire down. I usually turn it on the electric stove down to 4 or 5. I have to kind of gauge it. You'll have to do the same on a gas flame, a gas stove. You're going to have to try to turn it down and just keep it at 10. So once it gets to the point at 10, you want to leave it at 10, and then when that starts jiggling, that's when you want to set your timer again. And for quart jars, it's 90 minutes you're going to want that thing to jiggle, and for pint jars, it's 60 minutes. So anyway, right now we are just going to wait to get that gauge to move on up to 10, and I'll be back with you. Okay, so we're back, and as you see, my gauge is at 10. The jiggler is not jiggling yet, but I went ahead and I turned my fire down from high down to 5, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of stand here and I'm going to watch that gauge. I want to make sure it stays at 10. If it looks like it's going to go any higher than 11, between 10 to 11, what I do is I usually will turn it down to 4.5 or 4. My temperature, I'll change it down to 4, 4.5, and see if that'll keep it at 10. You just have to play with it, okay? But it looks to me like it's staying. Just if it goes a little hair above 10, it's not going to hurt anything. But for right now, it's staying steady. You see those 2 dark dots there underneath the 10? You want to stay in that range right there, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that alone for right now. And I'm going to wait for the jiggler to start jiggling, and then I'll set my timer. And I told you incorrectly, I'm sorry. When we're talking about quart jars, you want that to, once that jiggler starts, you're going to set your timer for 90 minutes. But on pint jars, your half pint jars, you're going to want to set it at your timer at 75 minutes, okay? So I'm going to let this keep doing what it's doing, and I'm going to wait for that jiggler to start moving, okay? Okay, if you look, it's jiggling. That's why they call it a jiggler. So we finally got the jiggling going on, and it took a minute or two. Actually, it took about maybe 30 minutes for it to finally kick in and start jiggling. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my timer. See, I'm still at 10 to 12. I'm at that 2 dark lines underneath the 10. You want to stay in that area right there. I had to adjust my heat underneath here. I had to adjust it to about 4.5. And now I'm going, since it's jiggling, I'm going to set it for 90 minutes because I've got quart jars, okay? So set my kitchen timer for 90 minutes. And then after that time's up, then you have got your canned gumbo. All right, it's been 90 minutes. Time's up. So now what you do is you're going to turn the fire off, And you see this little thing back here where it popped up? I showed you how it pops up. Well, you are not to open up this lid until that thing goes back down. This will stop jiggling. Pressure will go down to 0. And that valve back there will pop. It'll go back down. So once this is at 0, that's not jiggling, and that valve is popped down, then you can open up the lid and take your cans out. And we'll get to that point. Once we do, I'll be back. All done. So the jiggler's not moving. It's on 0 now. And the valve has popped down. So it is settled down. So now we're going to open it up. And it's going to be hot now. So be careful. See all that steam coming up off of there? Okay. So when you open it up, you're going to smell whatever it is that you canned. And you're going to think, oh my gosh, a jar is cracked. But no. For some reason, the smell of the product that you're putting in the can seems to emit the scent of it. I don't know how or why, but the cans are fine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lift the jars out. You want to use your trusty little jar lifter. And sometimes when you pull them out, you'll see still them bubbling inside. You see that? So now, what you're going to do is set these on a nice towel. And what's going to happen is as they cool, you're going to hear a pop. You're going to hear a ping or a pop. And that's going to be the seals. Actually, once they cool, the will finish sealing and you'll hear it pop. Okay, and that's music to your ears when you hear that. Okay, so let's get these all over here. And this is gumbo, and it has a shelf life of 18 months, okay? So this will sit on the shelf for 18 months. I guarantee you, if you're like my family and your family loves gumbo, it won't even last 12 months. This gumbo will be gone probably in less than 12 months. Okay? So there we go. All done. Got your canned gumbo. Now, if you want more good information about canning and food preservation, I want you to go to the USDA. They have a website, and because I'm old and I can't remember all them letters, let me tell you what they are. You go to nchfp.uga.edu, and what I'll do is I'll put the link in the description below so that you can just click on it and go. And it has all kinds of good information about food preservation and canning, okay? So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. I hope you give it a good old try. And if you do, let me know. Leave me a comment in the comment section. I'd like to know if you did it and how it went for you. Also, if you would, please subscribe and hit the like button, okay? Thanks again for watching. Bye.